Chapter 961. Yuwonma, when I received the annulment, you were no longer my fiancé. You just didn't want to admit it. What right do you have to be my fiancé? You people from Tianyu's royal family humiliated me and treated my Luo family like pigs and dogs. Have you ever thought about me and the Luo family? After being engaged for so many years, how many times have you been to our Luo family? How many times have you seen me and my grandfather? Yuwonma, those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. You abandoned my Luo family like a pair of worn-out shoes. In my eyes, how much better are you than trash? Luo Qingtong's expression was cold. The words she said were all what that Luo Qingtong wanted to say to Yuwonma back then. Before the Luo Qingtong disappeared, her greatest wish was not only to protect the Luo family, but also to make Yuwonma regret his actions. She wanted Yuwonma to know that she didn't care about him anymore. In her eyes, he wasn't even a piece of trash. Today, Luo Qingtong helped her say it. Shua. Luo Qingtong jumped onto the stage. Yuwonma, come up. Let's settle this once and for all today. I'll let everyone know that you, Yuwonma, aren't good enough for me, Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. The girl's aura exploded one by one. In the blink of an eye, the black robes around her body fluttered in the wind. That was the robe that Yi Qianming wrapped around her body. Luo Qingtong wore it on the stage. The black robe made Luo Qingtong's skin look like snow, white and tender like cream. Her black silky hair hung on Luo Qingtong's shoulder and was tied up by a purple hairband. It was really charming and elegant. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was like a goddess of war, cold and unparalleled, domineering and enchanting. Yuwonma, come and fight. Luo Qingtong raised her right hand and unsheathed the Thunder Wind sword, pointing it at Yuwonma. Today's battle wasn't just to cancel the engagement and take back the Luo family's token. It was to wash away the humiliation of the Luo family for the Tianyu royal family's ungrateful actions. Even more so, for the pride of the original owner who had been let down. Yuwonma, I will represent her and trample you under my feet. Tell everyone that you're not good enough for her. Hong. Following Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. Below, Yuwonma was completely enraged. His gaze was cold and gloomy as he looked at the young girl who was pointing her sword at him. The aura around him also exploded. Luo Qingtong, you forced me to do this. He wanted to give Luo Qingtong, but time and time again to's a woman's it since then. Don't blame him to if he couldn't have it. Then no one else could either. Luo Yuwonma's figure also leaped onto the arena in an instant. The two of them looked at each other from afar. A bone-chilling aura seeped out of Yuwonma's body. In just an instant, the entire arena was shrouded in that aura. Creak. As the aura spread out from his body, the railings around the entire ring emitted a screeching sound. Yuwonma's aura was so cold that it froze the railings around the stage. Soul imprint spirit body. It's a soul seal spirit body. The aura of the soul imprint in Yuwonma's body is so strong. He's not an ordinary soul imprint spirit body, right? Chapter 962. Cries of surprise came from the crowd. Yuwonma's soul power aura was so strong that it was not something a beginner martial emperor could compare with. As a heaven-grade student who entered the Empire of Qin's Saint Academy from the Empire Branch Academy, he was accepted as a closed-door student by the Soul Academy's great teacher. Su Jinhua had contributed a lot to this, but Yuwonma's talent and strength were also indispensable. Otherwise, no matter how much Su Jinhua liked him and said good things about him to Su Deheng, the latter would not risk damaging his reputation to accept a person with mediocre talent and strength. Yuwonma's aura was so strong that it was comparable to a beginner martial emperor's. The cold aura emitted from his body was enough to freeze a martial emperor's aura and make it difficult for them to circulate their energy. They were no match for him. Only a beginner martial emperor could resist the cold aura in his body. But don't forget that Yuwonma had soul skills. His innate soul body could maximize the cold energy in his body. In terms of combat strength, Yuwonma's strength was comparable to a mid-level martial emperor's. As for Luo Qingtong, she had just broken through to the martial emperor's level. She might not even be stable as a beginner martial emperor. How could she compare with Yuwonma? Everyone looked at the cold aura emitted from Yuanma's body, and was almost certain that Luo Qingtong would lose. What a pity. Someone shook his head and said, Luo Qingtong's talent is definitely above Yuanma's. She reached the martial emperor's level in a month. If Luo Qingtong was given enough time, Yuanma would definitely not be her match. But now she's definitely going to lose. Yeah, the people around him echoed. No one thought that Luo Qingtong would be Yuanma's match. The latter's strength completely suppressed Luo Qingtong. Not to mention other things, Luo Qingtong might not be able to resist the cold aura of the soul seal. Defeat was only a matter of time. Su Xiaoxiao and the others listened to the discussion around them and felt nervous. The strength that Yuanma displayed was indeed extraordinary. Even if they had great confidence in Luo Qingtong, they didn't dare to say that she would definitely win against Yuanma. After all, the martial emperor from the royal family of Tianyu whom Luo Qingtong had killed could not be compared to the latter's strength. Boss, Su Xiaoxiao and the others were worried. In the ring, Luo Qingtong looked at the aura emitted from Yuanma's body and narrowed her eyes. She remembered the reason why Yuanma and the original Luo Qingtong. Yuanmo was born with a cold illness. From the looks of it now, his innate cold illness had become a part of his innate talent, allowing him to become a soul imprint spirit body. Yuanmo had received such a great favor from the original owner's mother. Yet he actually viewed the original owner and the Luo family as burdens and despised them in every way possible. Luo, did they deserve it? Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She raised her wind and thunder sword and rushed towards Yuanma. Rumble! The two figures instantly clashed together. Luo Qingtong's long sword was like a dragon. As she waved her sword, the sound of wind and thunder came out. Together with the wind and thunder on the long sword, they slashed towards Yuanma. Chapter 963. Bang! Luo Qingtong's thunder sword sound tangled with Yuanma's cold aura. In an instant, the surrounding energy shot out. The students of the Saint Academy, who were too close to the arena, retreated one after another. They were afraid that if they were touched by the cold aura of their sword moves, they would suffer an unexpected disaster. Boom! On the arena, waves of energy waves rose and filled the entire arena. The sound of wind and thunder and the cold aura were endless, completely covering the two of them. Somewhere in the arena, Yi Qianxian and the Grand Supreme Dean stood on the high platform and watched the battle below. Aren't you afraid that the evil doctor will lose? Since there were no outsiders here, the Grand Supreme Dean didn't hide Luo Qingtong's identity anymore. He immediately looked at Yi Qianxian and asked. The latter was still dressed as Yi Luo. Hearing this, Yi Luo glanced at him and said coldly, She won't lose. You're confident, the Grand Supreme Dean muttered. If she loses, you'll be in trouble. Yuanma's strength is not weak. He was born with a soul seal spiritual body, and his soul seal is very special. The cold aura emitted from his body can even freeze the strength and aura in a person's body. The evil doctor has just broken through to the martial emperor realm. Even if her strength is far stronger than ordinary people who have just entered the martial emperor realm, she will inevitably be affected. The Grand Supreme Dean was really worried. Although he knew that Luo Qingtong was very powerful, the main thing was that Yuanma was not weak either. More importantly, if Luo Qingtong really lost, would the person next to him turn the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin upside down? He was also mentally tired. The other party could have solved the problem with just one sentence, but he just had to make it so troublesome. He really spoiled the evil doctor too much. What would he do if Luo Qingtong lost later? While the Grand Supreme Dean was muttering in his heart, Su Jinyue looked at the scene below the arena with indescribable hatred in her heart. Luo Qingtong was definitely no match for senior brother. That woman dared to call her a green tea bitch. After senior brother crippled her cultivation, broke off the engagement with her, and gave her to Mo Chunxian as a slave, she would like to see how she could still be so arrogant. Green tea bitch? Clinging on to someone else's fiancé and not letting go? It was better than Luo Qingtong becoming a slave and being trampled on by countless men. When that time came, he would definitely bring more people to see what happened to her. That way, people would know how cheap she was. Thinking of this, Su Jinhua sneered. However, just as she was about to smile, boom. The sound of a violent collision suddenly came from the arena. In the next second, with a bang, a figure instantly broke through the air waves that filled the arena and heavily smashed into the fence that surrounded the arena. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever that figure flew past, the iron floorboards would shatter, sending wood fragments flying everywhere. Senior brother must have won. Su Jinhua stood up excitedly. However, when she saw the scene on the stage clearly, her screams stopped. Senior brother? Su Jinhua's voice suddenly turned from excited to shrill. There was a look of disbelief in her voice. For no other reason. The figure that had smashed into the fence was Yu Wenma. Senior brother. How is this possible? Chapter 964. Buzz. The girl held her long sword horizontally. The wind and thunder sword was held behind her back. The sound of wind and thunder lingered on the tip of the sword. She lifted her leg and slowly withdrew it. Obviously, Yu Wenmo had been kicked out by this kick of hers. Oh my god! As the scene in the arena unfolded, many people were shocked. Mo Chunxian had already stood up and was about to leave after giving Ma Chunyi a provocative look. When he saw the scene in the arena, his eyes instantly shrank. Luo Qingtong won this battle? How could this be? She had just broken through to the martial emperor realm. Even if she was gifted, it was impossible for her to not be affected by Yu Wenma's icy aura. Moreover, Yu Wenma's cultivation was slightly higher than hers. He could completely suppress her strength. Why was Yu Wenma the one who was kicked out in the end? Did he go easy on her? Mo Chenxuan's eyes became extremely cold as he thought about it. In the arena, Yu Wenma got up from the ground and wiped the blood off his lips. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a gaze that was no better than the others. How could you not be affected by my icy aura? The moment Yu Wenmo was sent flying, everyone was stunned. Ever since he awakened his soul seal spiritual body, he had always been blessed by nature. Just his icy aura alone was enough to give him the upper hand in a battle against someone of the same level. Not to mention that after he reached the martial emperor realm, the power of his soul seal was completely revealed. His strength was more than 10 times stronger than before. However, Luo Qingtong was not affected by his icy aura at all. In the battle just now, only he knew that Luo Qingtong's strength was not hindered at all from the beginning to the end. Moreover, the strength of the battle experience displayed by the other party also shocked him. The girl that he used to look down on disdain and look down on had now grown to the point where he could not see through her at all. Yu Wenma could not accept this fact. He had always felt superior to Luo Qingtong. In his opinion, no matter how strong Luo Qingtong was, she was still inferior to him. He had a deep impression of Luo Qingtong. Even though Luo Qingtong's talent was stronger than his in the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, he didn't think that she could surpass him or even defeat him. Now he had been slapped in the face, in front of so many people from the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. In particular, he had once said in front of Luo Qingtong that if she didn't admit defeat, he would cripple her strength. Now, these words had all become one slap after another, ruthlessly slapping his face until it was burning with pain. I don't need to tell you. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. Her gaze swept past the 9 nether phoenix ring on her left ring finger. This ring could indeed resist the oppressive aura and strength of those strong cultivators, so she was not affected by them. The icy aura emitted by Yu Wenma was absorbed by the ring before it could even get close to her. In the past, Luo Qingtong didn't notice it, but now, she clearly felt it. Thinking of that man who used the ring to trap her, but she mistook it for a tracking device. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Yu Wenma thought her smile was mocking. Chapter 965. Luo Qingtong, don't think that you've already won. I haven't used all the soul power in my body yet. The cold air just now was just the natural release of the aura of the soul imprint that Yu Wenma carried. He hadn't really used the power of the soul imprint in his body yet. Yu Wenma thought that he could win without using the soul power in his body. But now it seemed that he had underestimated Luo Qingtong's strength. Luo Qingtong, this time I won't show any mercy. As Yu Wenmo spoke, he flew up into the sky. He crossed his hands in front of his chest, forming a strange gesture. In the next second, the aura of the surrounding space changed. Frost Moon Blade. Following Yuanma's voice. In an instant, crescent-shaped ice blades appeared in the sky all around them. Soul skill. Countless frost blades appeared in the sky in an instant, and then with a wave of Yuanma's hand, they flew toward Luo Qingtong. As those frost blades flew, the sky flickered with an incomparably cold light. Biting cold, murderous intent rose in all directions. When a soul practitioner activated their soul imprint, they could directly use the power of heaven and earth, corresponding to their soul imprint's attribute, to form an attack in midair. In just an instant, the frost blades came down like rain, exploding toward Luo Qingtong. There was almost no place to dodge such a concentrated attack. Rumble! Explosions rang out in the sky. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed in an instant. In the next second, she activated the pupil technique in her eyes. In the midst of the countless frost blades, her eyes instantly saw through a safe route. Swish! Luo Qingtong's figure swept up in an instant. The girl's figure was like a black butterfly shuttling back and forth in the snowy plains of the northern kingdom, flitting quickly among them. Her fluttering sleeves and hair, set off by her lithe and agile figure, were indescribably fluttering. Boom, boom, boom. The sharp ice blades missed her and bombarded her surroundings. In the next second, Luo Qingtong leaped into the air. The bloody light in her eyes flickered. Yuanma, I'll return your attack. As she spoke, she raised her hands and crossed them in front of her chest. When they saw that hand gesture, everyone in the surrounding arenas instantly let out a series of exclamations. Could this be? That's impossible. Everyone was stunned as they looked at Luo Qingtong's hands that were crossed in front of her chest. For a moment, they were at a loss for words. They looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. Even Yuanma's pupils constricted when he saw Luo Qingtong cross her hands. Impossible. He shook his head fiercely in his heart. Luo Qingtong can't possibly do it. That's... Before he could finish his thoughts, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rang out in the sky. Frost Moon Blade. Boom, boom, boom. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, frost blades suddenly floated in the air around her. The figure that flickered with an icy cold glint in midair, and the icy cold aura that scattered in all directions instantly caused everyone around to be shocked speechless. Oh my god! Isn't this the unique soul skill that Yuanma just used? Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Chapter 966. Didn't she need to have the same type of soul power as her opponent to use it? Could it be that Luo Qingtong was also a soul personage with an ice-type soul imprint? But how did she learn Yuanma's unique soul skill in an instant? Wasn't this too abnormal? While everyone was dumbstruck, Little Pig was even more shocked than them. Oh my god! Little Pig stared at the ice blades floating around Luo Qingtong and didn't know what to say. He knew that Luo Qingtong wasn't an ice-type soul personage. So how did she unleash such a soul skill? Little Pig's small eyes were wide open. The Grand Dean also turned his head to look at Yi Qianren in shock. That girl is also an ice-type soul personage? Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Not only did she have the same type of soul imprint as Yuanma, but she also knew his soul skill. The Grand Dean couldn't believe it. He suddenly remembered the rumor about Luo Qingtong's previous identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. It was said that the martial king expert sent by the Chung family to kidnap her slaves died at the hands of her own unique skill. At that time, he didn't pay much attention to the rumor and thought it was just a coincidence or some other reason. But now it seemed this lass actually knew any combat skill that she saw. Even her soul skill was no exception. While the Grand Dean was still in shock, Yi Qianxian's eyes flashed with deep astonishment. The girl's ability had always exceeded his expectations. Ever since he met her, she had been constantly giving him surprises. This time was no exception. Sometimes, Yi Qianxian even wondered if Luo Qingtong was a treasure specially bestowed to him by the heavens, reigniting his interest and longing for this world. Boom, boom, boom. While everyone was still in shock, the ice blades around Luo Qingtong's body suddenly shot toward the stunned Yuanma like falling stars. The latter didn't expect this at all and couldn't dodge in time. In the next second, bang, bang, bang. Violent sounds came one after another. In an instant, Yu Wenma's figure was surrounded by the ice blades. Under such circumstances, Yu Wenmo's figure was instantly blasted away by those sharp ice blades. His defense was sliced apart by the sharp icy blades. Countless moon blades slashed across his body. In an instant, Yu Wenma let out a blood-curdling scream. His whole body flew into the air and heavily smashed into the ground. The surroundings fell into absolute silence. Everyone looked at the girl standing across from them with shock. In that instant, she was domineering, valiant, enchanting, and beautiful. It almost made them think that they saw the goddess of war. Cough impossible. Luo Qingtong, how can you know the ice crescent blade? Yu Wenma stood. His soul skill was born from his soul imprint. Yu Wenmo was born with a cold disease. His body couldn't withstand the erosion of the cold air. If he didn't want to die, he could only destroy the ice cold in his body. But this way, Yu Wenma's innate soul seal would be destroyed. The Tianyu imperial family was unwilling. The Tianyu empress begged in every way possible, and set up a marriage contract with Luo Qingtong's mother. She swore to treat Luo Qingtong well. Chapter 967. Just like that, Luo Qingtong's mother managed to suppress the cold energy in Yu Wenma's body at the cost of her own life, and the engagement token. For so many years, Yu Wenmo relied on the suppression of the engagement token to become the genius he was today. But he didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be able to use his own unique soul skill. How could this be? That was a soul skill that could only be used because of his innate cold illness. How could Luo Qingtong use it? Yu Wenma couldn't believe it, but the truth was right in front of him. Yu Wenma. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold as she slowly stepped forward. Tianyu's imperial family once had a marriage agreement with my Luo family. From then on, you, who should have died from your innate cold illness, became a genius of Tianyu Empire and the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty. You entered the Empire of Qin Holy Academy and soared to the top with a limitless future. The entire Tianyu Empire and Tianyu's imperial family benefited from your genius. But how did you treat me and the Luo family? Luo Qingtong stared coldly at Yu Wenma, who was struggling to get up from the ground. You treated me and the Luo family as burdens. You treated our marriage agreement as a disgrace. Tianyu's imperial family did their best to trample on the Luo family and my grandfather. Have you forgotten that you knelt on the ground and begged for this marriage agreement? It was you, Yu Wenma, who tricked us. Yu Wenma lied to the young Luo Qingtong that he would die if they didn't get engaged. Luo Qingtong cried and begged to marry him. Luo Qingtong's mother finally agreed to the marriage. But how did Yu Wenma and Tianyu's imperial family treat Luo Qingtong and the Luo family? Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Yu Wenma had taken so much from the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. She was going to make him pay it all back. Genius? Fiancé? He wasn't worthy. Boom. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and instantly made another hand gesture. Frost Moon Blade. Countless ice blades descended from the sky and blasted Yu Wenma away once again. She was born with the mixed Yuan body. She could use all the power as soon as she got her hands on it. Others might not be able to use Yu Wenma's unique soul skill, but it was a piece of cake for Luo Qingtong. After activating his dojutsu to copy the moves, it was time for Luo Qingtong to perform. She would let Yu Wenma know what a true genius was. In the past, he looked down on Luo Qingtong, thinking that she was just a stain and a disgrace in his glorious career. He allowed Tianyu's imperial family to humiliate and despise Luo Qingtong in every possible way. Today, she was going to trample on him and tell him that he was nothing. Bang! Yu Wenma's body fell to the ground again. This time, his body's defenses weren't able to withstand it. Yu Wenma spat out a mouthful of blood after 2 consecutive attacks, using his most prized move. What made his face turn ashen was that the same attack and the same soul skill couldn't compare to Luo Qingtong's. Not only did she learn his soul skill in an instant, but she also used it better than him. Yu Wenma's sense of superiority was completely shattered. Boom boom boom. One attack after another landed on Yu Wenma's body. Every attack was Yu Wenma's most prized move. Chapter 968. Thank you for being as blind as a bat and mistaking fish eyes for pearls. Also thank your Tianyu royal family for looking down on us and letting our Luo family see the truth. If it wasn't for you and the Tianyu royal family, I wouldn't be here today. If the previous host hadn't died, she wouldn't have been able to transmigrate and wouldn't have been able to appear on this stage. So everything had a cause and effect. It wasn't that she didn't want revenge, it wasn't time yet. Peng. Another attack landed on Yu Wenmo's body. This attack is for the threat you gave me before. You want me to admit defeat and kowtow to others to protect me. Yu Wenmo, I don't know how you have the face to say such things. Are you proud? A man can't even protect his own woman, and she has to compromise to protect herself. Do you feel a sense of accomplishment? Does that count as protecting me? Then I really have to thank you for not protecting me. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold, and her face was filled with disgust as she looked at Yu Wenmo. Most of her disgust towards Yu Wenmo came from the memories of the original owner. Yu Wenmo's inaction towards the ungrateful actions of the Tianyu imperial family had wasted the prime of the original owner's life and directly led to the original owner's death. Then the words Yu Wenmo said to her a few days ago made her feel extreme disgust towards Yu Wenmo. Only the most cowardly and incompetent man wouldn't even dare to protect his own woman. He even asked her to sacrifice herself and said it was for her own good? If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to give the previous host and the Luo family an explanation, she would have stepped on him in the most ruthless way possible in front of everyone. Luo Qingtong had already split this self-righteous man apart when Yu Wenmo came to find her that day. How much glory and opportunity did he think he gave her? She didn't know what was good for her? Then she was really sorry. She really didn't need such a disgusting opportunity. It was best for trash like Yu Wenmo to scram as far as possible. Peng. Yu Wenmo's body heavily hit the ground. Luo Qingtong's every strike was extremely ruthless. She didn't show any mercy. Yu Wenmo's face was ashen after being defeated by his signature move, and it was even his unique soul skill. He clutched his wound and lay on the ground, exhaling heavily. His entire body seemed to have gone limp as he watched the young girl slowly walk over like an Azura goddess. He really didn't know which part of his heart was more emotional. Regret, frustration, humiliation, shock, disbelief. Various emotions intertwined together, causing Yu Wenmo's heart to be as colorful as the expression on his face. It was as exciting as a palette. Before today, no, it should be said that before this moment, he never thought that one day, he would be beaten by Luo Qingtong like a dog without any ability to fight back. What's more, the opponent was using his most prized move. Yu Wenmo felt as if he had been slapped in the face by countless people. His expression was extremely ugly. At the same time, he was extremely regretful. The talent and power that Luo Qingtong displayed right now was much stronger than he had imagined. Was this what that person's daughter should be like? Chapter 969. Would the talented and powerful young girl in front of him become his pride and envy, docile and well-behaved as she nestled in his arms? Didn't that mean that he had everything? His enviable fiancée, as well as the enormous benefits that she was hiding behind the scenes. What did he miss out on? Yu Wenmo's heart was filled with deep regret and resentment. Bang! Just as he was thinking, Luo Qingtong had already stepped in front of him. She narrowed her eyes at the man who indirectly caused the original owner of the body to die tragically. She bent down to take the jade pendant that was revealed on his neck. During the battle just now, Luo Qingtong had already locked onto the jade pendant that Yu Wenmo was wearing around his neck at a glance. The design and faintly discernible feeling made Luo Qingtong certain that it was what she wanted. The Luo family's engagement token. No. Sensing Luo Qingtong's actions, Yu Wenmo instantly began to struggle violently, ignoring his serious injuries. In that instant he regained his senses. He and Luo Qingtong had a wagered battle, and not an ordinary sparring match. The price for losing was to give up his engagement with Luo Qingtong and return the engagement token given to him by the Luo family. But that betrothal token... Bang! Before Yu Wenmo could make a move, Luo Qingtong, who had been eyeing the jade pendant for a long time, stepped forward and stepped on the back of Yu Wenmo's hand. The moment he stopped his movements, he pulled the jade pendant off his hand. She and Yu Wenma had set up this gambling match so that she could snatch the jade pendant fair and square. As for the engagement, she had long since stopped caring about it. Was her evil eyes marriage something that others could decide just because they wanted to? How could Yu Wenma not remove it just because he said so? As the jade pendant was pulled off, Yu Wenma instantly let out a blood-curdling scream. This blood-curdling scream was even more tragic than when he had been attacked, and it was filled with terror. In just an instant, Yu Wenma, who was on the stage, screamed miserably under the shocked gazes of the crowd. He curled up into a ball and rolled around the stage crazily. "Give it back to me! Give that jade pendant back to me!" Yu Wenma screamed miserably. When Luo Qingtang pulled the jade pendant off his hand, an icy aura emanated from his body. However, it was different from the icy aura that had spread out before. This icy aura had all condensed on Yu Wenma's surface. In just a moment, Yu Wenma's body and hair were covered in frost, turning his entire body purple from the cold. Even the power in his body was frozen. Natural cold illness. Luo Qingtang raised her eyebrows when she saw the cold air coming out of Yu Wenma's body. So that's it. Yu Wenma's illness of the cold. Was it suppressed by the jade pendant and became a part of his power? Now that she had taken the jade pendant off, the icy aura in his body immediately went out of control and began to bite back. And after suppressing it for so many years, the backlash from the icy aura was fierce enough to freeze Yu Wenma's power and make him suffer a fate worse than death. Luo Qingtang looked at Yu Wenma, who was screaming and rolling on the stage, and felt that he deserved it. Using the engagement token given by the original owner's mother to suppress the icy aura in his body and increase his power, he actually didn't treat the other party and the Luo family well. Chapter 970. As Luo Qingtang thought about it, she held the engagement token and turned to leave. She was originally prepared to cripple Yu Wenma's strength as a form of retaliation. Now seeing the cold energy erupting from his body, Luo Qingtang felt that there was no need to do this. This allowed Yu Wenma to maintain his strength and constantly feel the pain of the cold air invading his body. Let him clearly have strength, but because of the cold energy, he couldn't take another step forward. From now on, he would have no chance to increase his strength. Never having the chance to reach the peak was more painful than crippling his strength. How he stepped on the original owner and the Luo family to get to the top. Now let him pay it back. Let him feel that if it wasn't for the original owner and the Luo family, his life would be worse than death. He relied on stepping on the Luo family and the original owner to get so many years of comfort and glory. Now let him pay it all back. Luo Qingtang thought as she raised her hand, and an invisible force entered Yu Wenma's body. This force wouldn't cause any harm to Yu Wenma, but it was enough to make the cold energy in Yu Wenma's body unable to be cured. In the future, Yu Wenma would have to live with this cold energy for the rest of his life. This was the price he had to pay for being ungrateful to Luo Qingtang and the Luo family. After doing all this, Luo Qingtang's eyes turned cold, and she turned to jump off the stage. At this time, Su Jinyue, who had been completely stunned by what had happened, finally reacted. "Senior brother." She looked at Yu Wenma, who was almost frozen into an ice man. His body was covered in bruises, and he kept screaming and rolling around. She couldn't believe that this was the man she loved so much. How was this possible? Luo Qingtang not only won against senior brother, but also made him like this? Su Jinyue didn't know about the cold energy in Yu Wenma's body. She only thought that Luo Qingtang made him like this, and immediately cried out. "Luo Qingtang, your mind is too vicious. What did you do to senior brother?" Luo Qingtang ignored her completely. She walked to the edge of the ring, and was about to jump down. At this moment, an angry roar came from behind the crowd not far away. "Stop right there." The Seoul Institute's head teacher rushed over. He didn't think that Yu Wenma would lose to Luo Qingtang. He didn't even come to the battle. He only waited for Yu Wenma to cripple Luo Qingtang's strength and bring him to kneel and apologize to him. Who would have thought that after waiting for so long, he would receive the news that Yu Wenma had lost the bet? Furthermore, the cold energy of the soul seal in his body had actually backfired. After receiving the news, the Seoul Institute's great teacher immediately rushed to the Sky Hall's training arena. When he saw Yu Wonma's appearance on the stage, he immediately flew into a rage. Luo Qingtong, what did you do to make him like this? He luos Qingtongs, raises and grab her. Return him to his original state immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Su Deheng immediately determined that Luo Qingtong had used some underhanded method to deal with Yu Wenmo. He immediately raised his hand to grab her. The Seoul Institute's head teacher's pressure instantly suppressed Luo Qingtong. Chapter 971. The Grand Dean had said that he could not use his power and authority as a Seoul Institute master to attack Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Qingtong couldn't absolve herself from the blame for Yu Wenma's current state. He naturally had enough reason to make a move. Bang! Luo Qingtong's eyes sharpened when she saw the Seoul Academy's great teacher's palm coming for her, and the oppressive aura pressing down on her like a low pressure. However, before she could do anything, a figure appeared in front of her and raised his hand to block the Seoul Institute's head teacher's attack. It's you again! The Seoul Institute's head teacher was furious when he saw the hand grabbing his wrist. It was the Sacred Institute's chief instructor, who came out of nowhere. The Seoul Institute's head teacher didn't like the other party. Last time, it was the other party who stopped him. In the end, not only did he fail to teach Luo Qingtong a lesson, he was forced to lose face. Not only was he punished by the Grand Dean, but his daughter and students were also forced to kneel before Luo Qingtong and the others. This time, he was meddling in other people's business again? Let go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The Seoul Institute's head teacher was furious. He looked at Yi Qianxian with a cold gaze. His aura fluctuated, and he was about to make a move. At this moment, the Grand Dean's voice rang out. Su Deheng, what are you doing? The Grand Dean appeared on the stage right after Yi Qianren. He looked at the Seoul Academy's great teacher with a sullen expression. Why was he meddling in Luo Qingtong's matter again? Didn't he just warn him not to lay his hands on Luo Qingtong? It's only been a few days, but he's treating my words like the wind. Grand Dean, Luo Qingtong used some dark method to turn Yu Wenma into this state. I can't ignore this matter. It's best if you don't interfere. Otherwise, I have reason to suspect that you're protecting Luo Qingtong. Fuck. Hearing the Seoul Institute's head teacher's words, the Grand Dean was about to vomit blood. He was protecting Luo Qingtong? What the hell was he doing? With Yi Qianxian here, was there a need for him to protect her? If he wasn't afraid that the idiot Su Deheng would attack Luo Qingtong and anger Yi Qianxian, the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute would be in trouble. Did he think he would be willing to interfere? It's not like his brain was damaged. Didn't he see that Yi Qianren's murderous aura had already reached an unimaginable level? The Grand Supreme Dean was truly angered to death. Seoul Institute's great teacher was simply making bogus accusations. Since he wasn't willing's head teacher's head to the Grand Supreme Dean thought about it and said coldly, Sure, I won't interfere in this matter. But teachers, S's, since you, use Qin's, TSSS2s, after he, T.S. being. The Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute wasn't going to take the blame. The Grand Dean's words had cut off Su Deheng's path of using his identity and authority to deal with Yi Qianren. If he wants to die, he can do it himself. Fine. Su Deheng thought that the Grand Dean had no choice but to compromise. He sneered and looked at Yi Qianxian. Are you going to scram now? Or do you want me to open you up? The Seoul Institute's head teacher didn't think the other party was his match. As the head teacher of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute, Su Deheng's strength could be counted on one hand. There weren't many people who could defeat him. Chapter 972. Who was this man? Sacred Academy's chief instructor? He didn't know where the Grand Dean found this person. He had never heard of the name Yi Luo. He probably wasn't a particularly powerful expert. The only reason he was able to stop him last time was because he had the advantage of a sneak attack. The Seoul Academy's head teacher was thinking this, but he didn't know that the Grand Dean had already covered his face. He couldn't bear to watch The evils he brought upon himself were the hardest to bear. Telling Blackfield to scram? And to open him up. Even the gods in the heavens weren't as good at bragging as him. It would be strange if he could touch a single finger of Yi Qianxian. While the Grand Dean was speechless, the Soul Academy's head teacher had already made his move. Boom! The aura around him exploded. The powerful and terrifying aura emanated from his body one after another, almost tearing the surrounding air apart. The powerful aura that spread out forced the surrounding students of the Sacred Academy to step back one after another. Soul Academy's head teacher, seeing that Su Deheng had actually made his move, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others immediately panicked. Why didn't the Grand Dean stop him? If the chief instructor couldn't stop him, everyone was anxious and wanted to charge over without a care for their own safety. At this moment, bang! The sound of a violent collision was heard. Everyone watched in shock as the Soul Academy's head teacher flew in front of them and landed heavily on the ground. Pfft! The Soul Academy's head teacher spat out a mouthful of blood and looked in shock at the man who was looking at him with a cold expression. You! The Soul Academy's head teacher was indescribably shocked. In that instant, the power around him seemed to have hit a steel plate. How was this possible? How could the other party be so strong? Even the Grand Dean wouldn't be able to defeat him and send him flying so easily. The Soul Academy's head teacher had already gone all out in that attack. He wanted to make an example out of Yi Qianxian, but he didn't expect that he would become the chicken. Yi Qianming looked at him coldly. If it weren't for the fact that his identity couldn't be exposed, the Soul Academy's head teacher would already be a dead man. Bang! He took a heavy step forward, instantly appearing in front of the Soul Institute's grand teacher, who had been sent flying. The latter had been seriously injured by the attack just now. Seeing this, he was shocked and struggled to get up. But before he could move, Yi Qianming's head teacher's head teacher's head teacher's head teacher. His head teacher's head teacher's head teacher's head teacher's head. Bang! The Soul Academy Grand Master had just crawled up from the ground. He didn't even have time to gather his energy before Yi Qianming's aura forced him to kneel on the ground. Head's head. In an instant, the Soul Institute's head teacher screamed miserably. Teet head. Now you can scram. Teet. But now, he was immediately slapped in the face by someone else. Moreover, he had been beaten so badly and so painfully. The Soul Academy's head teacher's body trembled violently. He was in pain and also humiliated. Where did this guy come from? Chapter 973. Su Deheng had tried his best to resist. But if his aura was like a steel plate, then Yi Qianming's aura was like a steel spike. Ruthlessly and unstoppably, it directly crushed all the aura around Su Deheng's body and blasted into his body. How could he be so strong? Who was he? The Soul Institute's great teacher trembled violently. At this moment Su Jinyue, who was beside the unconscious Yuanma, raised her head and saw this scene. She immediately screamed, "Father! What did you do to my father?" Su Jinyue couldn't believe that her father, the Soul Institute's great teacher, would lose to a nameless person. What Yi Luo? What Holy Institute's chief instructor? She had never heard of their names. They must have used some despicable method to deal with her father. Thinking of this, Su Jinyue instantly lost her mind and scolded Yi Qianming loudly. How dare you do this to my father? You bastard! Trash! You! Before she could finish speaking, the expression of the Grand Principal on the other side suddenly darkened. Su Jinyue, shut up! He raised his hand and was about to seal her mouth. However, even though he was fast, someone else was faster than him. Whoosh! Hearing those insults about Yi Qianming, Luo Qingtong, who was tightly protected by the man, had a cold expression. She raised her hand and curled her fingers. In an instant, a few faintly discernible forces suddenly shot into Su Jinyue's body. In an instant, the aura in the latter's body seemed to have been stimulated. It constantly twisted and crazily drilled out. While Su Jinyue was scolding, she suddenly felt that something was constantly drilling out of her body. That familiar, itchy and painful feeling instantly made her face turn pale. No, it couldn't be those things. They had been cured by her. It couldn't be them. However, Just as Su Jinhua was thinking about it, she suddenly screamed. Then, under everyone's horrified gaze, she desperately scratched her face with her hands. Her long and sharp nails instantly scratched her face into a bloody mess. No, she screamed shrilly as she clawed. Then, everyone gasped as they saw huge festering boils on Su Jinhua's face and body. After the abscesses appeared, they quickly festered. Soon, from within the festering flesh, human faces with hideous and terrifying expressions emerged, shrieking shrilly. Seeing this scene, many people cried out in alarm. What was going on? How did Su Jinhua become like this? While everyone was surprised, Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Only people who have done too many bad things can't cure it. The yin qi won't disperse. Su Jinhua, you and your father, one of you is scheming and has done all kinds of bad things, while the other has no virtue as a teacher, and doesn't deserve to be a teacher. You two are really from the same origin. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. She had just used a special method to trigger the hidden yin qi in Su Jinhua's body. At the same time, she injected all the yin qi in the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding tree into Su Jinhua's body. She also drew a yin drawing diagram in her body. In the future, Su Jinhua would be on the same side as these ghost face boils. This was the price for insulting Yi Qianming. She couldn't bear to scold this man. Who was Su Jinhua? How dare she scold him? Chapter 974. Su Jinhua couldn't care less about Luo Qingtong's words now. She screamed and scratched her face with all 10 of her fingers. With a tearing sound, she actually tore off a large piece of skin from her face. His crazed and pained appearance caused the surrounding crowd to shudder. Wasn't this ghastly facial ulcer too scary? Su Jinhua had it all over her body. How many shameful things had she done? Everyone looked at Su Jinhua strangely and distanced themselves from her. Su Deheng pounced on her. You are... Seeing his daughter in this state, Su Deheng's eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. His student was crippled, his daughter became like this, and his legs were broken. As a teacher of the Soul Institute, he had lost all his face. As Su Deheng thought of this, hatred surged in his heart, and he almost fainted. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Luo Qingtong, you're wrong. The teacher of the Soul Institute was just concerned about his student. Yu Wenma is the last student of the Soul Institute. If he didn't care at all, he would be called cold-blooded and heartless. He has no morals as a teacher. Mo Chenxian walked out of the crowd as he spoke. He had been watching the development of the situation coldly from the crowd. Now he walked out and was ready to do Su Deheng a favor. The teachers of the Saint Institute of the Empire of Qin had never taken sides. Especially Su Deheng. Other than his own strength, his wife's identity was even more impressive. Mo Chenxian had always wanted to rope him in, so he was on good terms with Yu Wenma and valued him. The current situation undoubtedly gave him a chance. The teacher of the Soul Institute didn't do anything wrong, but he was a little too radical. However, Mo Chenxian narrowed his eyes coldly at Yi Qianming. The other party's strength shocked him, but this was a chief instructor who had just entered the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy. He didn't even know where he came from, so he naturally wasn't as valuable as Su Deheng, a great teacher of Soul Academy. Moreover, this Yi Luo was obviously standing on the Grand Supreme President's side. That made him even more inferior to Su Deheng. Mo Chenxian thought so. He immediately said coldly, Chief Instructor Yi Luo and the Soul Institute's head teacher are using their personal identities to solve this problem. However, the Soul Institute's head teacher is not only a teacher of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Academy, but also a prince of the Sacred Dynasty. I wonder what is Chief Instructor Yi Luo's identity and title? Mo Chenxuan's eyes were cold. If he doesn't have a noble title, I'm afraid that Chief Instructor Yi Luo and Soul Academy's great teacher will be charged with the crime of offending their superiors. Hearing Mo Chenxuan's words, everyone's face froze. Oh my God, this show is really getting more and more exciting. His Highness King Wu was obviously standing on the side of the Soul Institute's head teacher. He wanted to use the Sacred Dynasty's title to avenge the Soul Institute's head teacher. Everyone understood that since the Soul Institute's head teacher was using his personal identity to fight, A loss was a loss. There was nothing to say. However, with Mo Qinshuan's words, the nature of the confrontation just now changed. Originally, it was just a fight between two people. Now that it had risen to the level of status, if Chief Instructor Yi Luo didn't have a noble title, he would be in trouble. Everyone thought so and immediately looked at Yi Qianming. Chapter 975. Grand Dean, didn't you say before that we are settling our grudges as individuals? If that's the case, then my identity and title will naturally be included. As he spoke, he looked at Yi Qianming with resentment. I am no longer a teacher of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, but a prince of the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin. I would like to see what title Chief Instructor Yi Luo has with his strength. According to Su Deheng's thoughts, he had never heard of Yi Luo's name. If the other party was not a newly advanced expert who had surpassed the Saint Realm, then he must be someone who lived in seclusion. Under such circumstances, how could the other party have a title of nobility of the Holy Dynasty? At that time, he could use the other party's offense to force the other party to apologize to him. If the other party refused, the law enforcement team of the Holy Dynasty would naturally wait for him. Thinking of this, Su Deheng seemed to have found a way to regain his face. The way he looked at Yi Qianming suddenly became arrogant. He was very satisfied with Mo Qinshuan's goodwill this time. Since the other party helped him like this, he would naturally support him in the future. As for Ma Qianyi, who stood on Luo Qingtong's side, he should be prepared to step down. Anyway, he, as the crown prince, was almost at the end of his road. His strength had been stagnant for a long time, and there was no movement for a few years. It was even regressing. Compared to the martial king's strength that was constantly improving, there was no comparison at all. Su Deheng did not want to get involved in the fight for the throne before. But now, he had no choice but to get involved. Today's matter, he the Grand Dean, and Luo Qingtong would not let it go. Chief Instructor Yi Luo, show us your identity and title. Let us see your elegance. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Su Deheng's voice was cold and gloomy as he pressed on. Hearing this, the Grand Supreme Dean didn't know what to say. Recently, Su Deheng had been refreshing the upper limit of his cognition. Every time he thought that the other party had done something big, the other party would use actual actions to tell him, no, not enough. We can commit even greater deaths. Comparing status with Blackfield's Nether Venerable, even the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin would have to be respectful to this person. Who did he think he was? He was just a prince with a different surname, a first-class noble. No, he couldn't watch this anymore. The Grand Supreme Dean covered his face and silently turned his head. He had tried his best. He wanted to save some face for Su Deheng. After all, he was a teacher of the Saint Academy, wasn't he? However, the other party didn't give him a chance at all. She thought about how she had just stepped forward to speak, but before she could open her mouth, she was blocked by the other party. The corner of the Grand Supreme Dean's mouth twitched. He really couldn't be blamed for this. He had tried his best. How could they talk if their IQ was different? There was nothing he could do. While the Grand Supreme Dean was complaining in his heart, Yi Qianming's gaze was focused on Su Deheng. Title. He looked at the other party's arrogant face. No. Yi Qianming's status was on the same level as the Saint Emperors of the four sacred dynasties. What kind of title could they give him? Could it be that the position of Saint Emperor should be given to him? Even if the other party was willing to give it to him, Yi Qianming didn't want it. However, although he didn't have a title, but Yi Qianming turned his hand and took out a token. Is this enough? If you don't have a title, then you. Su Deheng had already sneered when he heard that Yi Qianxian didn't have a title. Chapter 976. This is the supreme sacred token. He looked at the token in the man's hand in shock, and his face was indescribably distorted. Beside him, Mo Qinshuan's face also changed when he heard the words he blurted out. Supreme sacred token? How could this be? Only the transcendent saints of the four sacred dynasties could issue such a token. Every token represented the power and status of a transcendent saint. What kind of existence was a transcendent saint? It was an existence that ruled the entire sacred dynasty, like the Eastern region's supremacy. How could he have such a token? The two's faces twisted in shock, and the people around them looked at Yi Qianming with the same shock. Supreme Sacred Token. Those who could enter the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin were not ordinary people. How could they not know what a Supreme Sacred Token was? Under such circumstances, the way they looked at Yi Qianming changed. Originally, everyone was very envious of Luo Qingtong and the others for being able to become Yi Qianxian's disciple, and for their strength to increase so much. Especially Luo Qingtong, who rose from the martial emperor realm to the martial emperor realm in a month. Not only was the chief instructor strong, he was also very good at teaching people. Not only that, the chief instructor even had a supreme sacred token on him. Oh my God! Once they thought of what the supreme sacred token represented, they beat their feet and stomped their chests. If they had known earlier, they would have risked everything to become the chief instructor's disciple. Even if they had to be shameless, they would have done it. Su Deheng and Emo Qinshuan's faces turned ugly, but Yuan Hu and the others relaxed. Haha! Yuan Hu, the guy who wished for the world to be in chaos, laughed loudly. He looked at Su Deheng and Emo Qinshuan's ugly faces and mocked. Yo! Great teacher of the Soul Institute, please continue. Continue your performance. How about our chief instructor's status? What's that with you? Oh, compared to a prince with a different surname, who is more powerful? Is our chief instructor offending his superiors? Yuan Hu's voice was extremely loud. In particular, he had purposely added a little bit of power into it. In an instant, his voice spread throughout the entire arena like a lion's roar. If it weren't for the special materials used in the Sky Hall's training ground and the isolation of the formation, the Sky Hall's arena would have been destroyed. His words could probably spread to almost half of the Sky Hall's training ground. Su Deheng and Emo Qinshian looked extremely embarrassed. Especially Emo Qinshian, who had deliberately brought up the difference between their identities in order to help Su Deheng vent her anger, so that he could better win her over. In the end, not only did he not vent his anger, he even helped someone else steal the limelight. His side had lost all face. He was even beaten swollen. His face alternated between green and white, and he almost couldn't control his expression. There was no need to mention Su Deheng. Just now, when Yi Qianxian said that he didn't have a noble title, his expression was so arrogant. He almost laughed out loud. In the end, he was slapped in the face. His proud, arrogant, and shocked expression was fixed on his face. It was as strange as it could be. The chief instructor has the supreme sacred token, so he naturally wouldn't offend his superiors. Sima Ju's voice rang out at this moment. However, the person who fought with the chief instructor is offending his superiors. Chapter 977. Su Deheng's expression turned even uglier. Beside him, Emo Qinshian couldn't maintain his composure either. After all, he was the one who suggested using his title to suppress others. Now he was slapped in the face instead. He didn't even have a reason to find an excuse. Moreover, even if they wanted to find an excuse, they had to see if Yi Qianxian was willing or not. Obviously, Yuan Hu and the rest weren't going to let them off. Just as he was thinking this on the other side, Yuan Hu, Sima Ju, and Ling Yu had already started talking loudly. Oh, so that means that the person who offended his superior is actually the Soul Institute's great teacher? Then what should we do if he offends his superior? Kowtow and apologize. Sigh. The Soul Institute's great teacher was beaten up so badly, and he's still kneeling. Let's not force him to do anything. Just let him kowtow and apologize. As soon as he said that, Su Deheng couldn't hold back the sweet taste in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was already injured from the fight with Yi Qianxian and was holding on with his last breath. Now, not only did he fail to vent his anger, he lost even more face. Thinking of this, Su Deheng was so angry that he started trembling. In the next second, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Soul Institute's great teacher. Seeing Su Deheng faint, Emo Qinshian naturally couldn't stay in the arena any longer. He glanced coldly at Luo Qingtong and the rest and said coldly, "Good. You guys are very good. He didn't dare to target Yi Qianxian, so he vented all his anger on Luo Qingtong and the rest. I hope you guys can still laugh in the future. As he spoke, he waved his sleeves and said to the people beside him, Bring the Seoul Institute's great teacher and the rest. We're leaving. A group of people from the Dragon Group heard the order and hurriedly helped the Seoul Institute's great teacher, Yu Wunma, and Su Jinyue up. The group of people left with their tails between their legs. Especially Emo Chenxian. He was in high spirits when he came here, thinking that Luo Qingtong was bound to lose. He even planned to make her his slave. In the end, not only did Luo Qingtong win, she even crippled Yu Wunma. But that wasn't all. The Seoul Institute's Grand Master had personally stepped in, and he didn't even care about his reputation. Yet he still hadn't managed to gain any advantage. Where did that Yi Luo come from? How could there be a supreme saint order? Emo Chenxian and the others left angrily. On the other side, Su Xiaoxiao and the others were overjoyed. The members of the Heavenly Evil group cheered, laughing and jumping. Those who had just joined felt indescribably lucky. Fortunately, they made the right bet this time. Luo Qingtong actually won against Yu Wunma, and in such a beautiful manner, forcefully slapping the dragon group in the face once again. This time they really didn't misjudge him. As the group cheered, the members of the Gui Yuan group also came up to congratulate. Ma Qingyi looked at Luo Qingtong and smiled. Congratulations on winning the bet. You have nothing to do with Yu Wunma anymore. The young man's temperament was elegant and steady. When he smiled and congratulated her, he gave off the feeling of a jade-like gentleman. Seeing the sincere congratulation in his eyes, Luo Qingtong smiled faintly. Thank you, Your Highness. As she spoke, she suddenly felt a pair of eyes staring at her. Luo Qingtong turned her head and saw Yi Qianxian's disguised face looking at her with a dark expression. Chapter 978. Humph. Seeing her turn her head, Yi Qianxian snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves, and disappeared in front of the crowd with a cold face. The crowd rushed in front of him. Some thanked him, some admired him, and some were stunned. Grand Principal, what's wrong with the chief instructor? The group of people looked at the Grand Supreme Headmaster beside them in confusion and asked. Ahem. The Grand Principal covered his mouth and coughed softly. He's probably tired. In fact, tired? He's just jealous, okay? Who would have thought that the dignified Ming Zun of the Black Field was such a jealous person? No wonder he had to conceal his identity and stay by the side of that evil doctor child. However, the Grand Principal deeply suspected that Luo Qingtong already knew about this. He looked at the girl in the crowd opposite him. Luo Qingtong was looking at the place where Yi Qianxian had left. She couldn't stop smiling. She was both evil and cunning. The Grand Principal's lips twitched. Oh my God! These two people. He hoped that they would take it easy and not ruin the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. He wasn't ready to retire yet. Just as the Grand Principal was on tenterhooks, Luo Qingtong had already said something to Su Xiaoxiao and the others. She lifted her body and rushed in the direction where Yi Qianxian had left. The man's figure had long disappeared. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned. She suddenly turned around and left the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. The girl's figure flitted through the woods. Soon, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared under the waterfall where Yi Qianxian had brought them for training. The water around them had been cut off. Only the water in the middle was left. It rushed down from the cliff at the top of the mountain. Sure enough, that man had created this waterfall. Every day, he would come here to manually draw the water from the lake to the top of the mountain. Luo Qingtong liked the feeling that Yi Qianxian was doing this for her. Her lips curled up slightly as she looked at the scene in front of her. Waves of warmth surged in her heart. Humph. With a serious expression, she took out the little pig from her sleeve and placed it on the boulder in front of her. She sat cross-legged across from it and said, Don't you think the chief instructor is a good person? Little Pig was still in a daze when he was released. What was this woman doing? It looked at Luo Qingtong inexplicably, not knowing why she had brought it to this place. If the engagement was successfully broken, shouldn't this woman be with that man? Why did he bring it to such a desolate place? Little Pig looked around and was about to ask Luo Qingtong what was wrong with her. Suddenly, all the hair on its body stood up. Oh my god! Little Pig glared at the person behind Luo Qingtong. There, Yi Qianxian's figure appeared. He was surrounded by an obvious chill as he coldly looked at the little pig. However, Luo Qingtong didn't seem to feel anything and continued to speak. Look, this huge waterfall was specially made by the chief instructor to help us improve our strength. Isn't the chief instructor very considerate? Yi Qianxian felt a chill run down his spine as he listened. This waterfall was indeed specially made by him for this woman. However, he didn't do this to make her have a good impression of that Yi Luo. Yi Qianxian instantly felt as if he had been poached by his alias. Chapter 979. There's more. You see, the chief instructor has helped me several times in a row. Even if he's doing it for the grand principal's sake, isn't it a little too much? Moreover, if he can raise the strength of a disciple by a whole realm within a month, it's definitely tailor-made for me. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she could feel that the man behind her could no longer hold his breath. She held back her laughter and asked Little Pig in front of her with a serious expression. Say, Chief Instructor is so nice to me. Is it because he likes me? Actually, Yi Qianxian couldn't hold back any longer after Luo Qingtong said this. Luo Qingtong. He gritted his teeth and pounced on the girl. As for Luo Qingtong, she had already dodged to the side the moment she finished speaking, and dodged Yi Qianren's pouncing figure. Pfft! She looked at the man's dark and jealous face and thought, why is this man so cute? He's actually jealous of himself, and he's so jealous. Ha ha ha. Luo Qingtong couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed. The girl's bell-like voice resounded through the waterfall, and mixed with the sound of flowing water. It was indescribably pleasant to listen to. Sly. Yi Qianxian listened to the girl's laughter, and looked at her smiling face. She was indescribably beautiful and sly. How could he not know that he had fallen into this woman's trap again? She was obviously saying those words to him on purpose. As Yi Qianren thought of this, she couldn't help but feel a knot of anger in her heart. She grabbed the young girl's waist, and pulled her into her embrace. Luo Qingtong held back her laughter, and let him pull her into his embrace. She raised her arms, and wrapped them around the man's neck. She had a cheeky and wanton look on her face. She raised her eyebrows and asked, Lord, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Pfft! Haha! Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh again. Surprise joy! Yi Qianren gritted her teeth, and said word by word. Why isn't it a surprise? He was about to die of surprise. Couldn't this woman be a little more well-behaved? He almost thought that she had fallen in love with his alias, Yi Luo, and he almost exploded in anger. However, even so, Yi Qianxian was still very restrained when he grabbed Luo Qingtong. He did not want to hurt her at all. Instead, he became gentler when the young girl threw herself into his arms. He was afraid that he would accidentally pinch the little woman in his arms. Although he knew that Luo Qingtong wasn't that fragile, he couldn't help pampering and protecting this woman. Haha! Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian, who was so angry that he couldn't do anything to her, and her eyes instantly turned into crescents. She smiled sweetly as she looked at the man's dark face in front of her. She held back her laughter, and raised her hand to smooth out the wrinkles on his brows. All right, don't be angry. Luo Qingtong didn't mean to tease Yi Qianxian, but this man's reaction to her was too cute. Besides, he was so much stronger than her. She couldn't beat him every time. Wasn't she allowed to make up for it in other ways? However. Chapter 980. As she said this, she immediately hung something around Yi Qianxian's neck. Here, this is for you, she said with a smile. Yi Qianxian only felt a chill on his neck, and a jade pendant appeared in front of his chest. He lowered his head to take a look, and then the light in his eyes instantly became incomparably deep. Is it that betrothal token? He looked at the young girl in front of him, and asked word by word. Yes. Luo Qingtong smiled and nodded. Lord, do you like it? I like it. The man's voice was low and hoarse. Yi Qianxian looked deeply at the little girl in front of him. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her. How could she not like it? That was her betrothal token. She gave it to him. Did it mean that she had already opened her heart to accept him? For the first time, Yi Qianxian felt a clear response from Luo Qingtong. At this moment, some kind of emotion overflowed from the bottom of his heart, and it was about to explode. Haha! The young girl's bell-like laughter echoed in the mountain stream. Luo Qingtong raised her head and hooked her arms around Yi Qianxian's neck and welcomed the man's enthusiasm. At this moment, the mountains, fields, lakes, and spring were incomparably brilliant. The news of Luo Qingtong defeating Yuanma quickly spread throughout the empire of Qin's Holy Academy. Those who didn't go to watch the gambling match were instantly shocked when they heard this news. Oh my god! Luo Qingtong actually defeated Yuanma? When everyone heard this, they thought it was a fantasy. However, the news that came later confirmed that what they heard was true. Luo Qingtong really defeated Yuanma. Furthermore, she defeated him with his unique soul skill. When this news came out, everyone was instantly speechless. Using the opponent's unique soul skill to defeat him, wasn't Luo Qingtong's talent and innate talent too amazing? However, there were also people who were suspicious. How could Luo Qingtong be so coincidental as to have the same type of soul seal as Yuanma? However, this suspicion was quickly suppressed by the news that Yi Qianxian had the supreme sacred token. The new chief instructor actually had the supreme sacred token. This news was even more shocking than the news of Luo Qingtong defeating Yuanma. For a moment, everyone was guessing Yi Qianxian's background and identity. How could he actually have such an amazing item, like the supreme sacred token? After all, it was something that could only be issued by a transcendent saint. Only those who had the power to look down on the celestial dynasty could possess it. Every expert who had the supreme saint token was on equal footing with the transcendence. Whether the token belonged to the chief instructor or not, it meant that there was an extremely terrifying person behind him who could fight against the sacred dynasty. Just as everyone was discussing excitedly, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared outside the Blackfield main city of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty. She received the news that Yin Yang and the others had something to report. It just so happened that Luo Qingtong had been thinking about helping Ma Chenyi solve the luck-seizing technique in his body these days. She still lacked a few medicinal herbs, so she immediately came over. Helping Ma Chenyi solve the luck-seizing technique in his body was firstly to repay his kindness of giving her the medicinal herbs, and secondly to deal with King Wu. The latter was too arrogant. Thinking of the ruthless words Mo Chenxian said before leaving, and what he said to Yuanma before, about making her a slave, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Chapter 981. What's more, the other party was backed by that heavenly doctor. Thinking of how the latter had previously interfered in the affairs of the Great Chu Empire. If she hadn't chased her grandfather to the Great Chu sacred dynasty, Empress Dowager Yin she would have been successfully plotted against by the other party, and Ning Wang. Now, he had interfered in the struggle for the throne of the Empire of Qin, and supported King Wu to fight for the throne behind the scenes. Was this a coincidence, or was it intentional? Luo Qingtong thought like this, and her figure had already rushed towards the main city of the Black Field of the Empire of Qin. Not long after she left, a petite figure suddenly appeared at the place where she was standing. Following her was indeed the right choice. Looks like she's going to the main city of the Black Field this time. I wonder if she's going to see the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Yu Xingqi's petite figure appeared at the place where Luo Qingtong was standing before. She tilted her little head and looked at the direction where the girl left. She smiled and lowered her head, and said to the little white cat in her arms, "Dudu, this time it's up to you. We have to follow her closely, don't lose her. Otherwise, it's fine if brother can't find his future bride. But I won't have any fun. So cheer for me a bit, okay? Otherwise, I'll deduct your dried fish." Meow. Hearing Yu Xingqi's words, the little white cat in her arms suddenly called out lazily. Suddenly, it seemed to have sensed something, and the hair all over its body stood up at once. Meow. Its voice was sharp, and its eyes stared straight at a certain direction not far away. Who? Seeing the little white cat like this, Yu Xingqi's smiling expression immediately disappeared. Her sweet smiling face suddenly froze, and looking at the place where the little white cat was screaming, she coldly called out, This beast's senses are quite sharp." In the direction Yu Xingqi was looking at, a few figures suddenly appeared. They actually sensed our existence so quickly, but it's already too late. A few voices said with bad intentions, and immediately surrounded Yu Xingqi and the little white cat in a fan shape. "You are the remnants of the silver sword?" Yu Xingqi's gaze swept over the auras of these people and discovered their identities. "That's right, Yu Xingqi. Just obediently let yourself be captured. Your brother annihilated our silver sword, and we will never forgive him. And the woman who helped your brother kill our silver sword elder, we won't let her go either. Take him away." That group of people waved their hands and instantly swarmed over, capturing Yu Xingqi. At the same time, Luo Qingtong had just approached the main city of the Black Field when a message flew into her hand. "If you want to save Yu Xingqi, come here." There was a map attached to the letter, and it was not far from the Black Field's main city. Luo Qingtong looked at the letter and narrowed her eyes. Imperial Star Qi? Why does this name sound familiar? As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she suddenly thought of the little girl who had helped her to diss Su Jinyue. Didn't the other party say her name was Imperial Star Qi? So she was the Imperial Star Qi mentioned in the letter? But what does her being captured have to do with me? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. At this moment, the little pig in her arms looked at the contents of the letter and suddenly said, "Imperial Star Qi, is it related to that Yu Huang?" Hearing this, Luo Qingtong also seemed to have reacted. She recalled the sage stage elder she had killed when she was refining the youthful rejuvenation pill. Chapter 982. Luo Qingtong thought like this, and immediately understood. No wonder this letter was sent to her. The other party probably didn't know her true identity, and only saw her face from the image of that sage realm elder before he died. They thought that her relationship with Yu Huang wasn't shallow, so this letter was sent to her. If that was the case, then it could explain why this letter was sent to her, Luo Qingtong's hands, and not the evil Dr. Ghost Eye's hands. But if the other party knew that she was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, then they wouldn't have the guts to come and seek revenge. Luo Qingtong thought like this, and immediately kept the letter. Turning around, she rushed towards the location marked on the letter. She was never a person who liked to raise a tiger and invite calamity. Since the other party had come to seek revenge, then naturally she had to get rid of them all, so as to avoid any more unexpected complications. Luo Qingtong never looked down on anyone, no matter if the other party was powerful or not, because she herself had risen from insignificance and adversity. In her previous life, other people's contempt towards her gave her the opportunity to escape and rise, achieving the prestige of the Supreme Eye Technique Master. Then these Silver Sword's remaining members, who knew if they would implicate even more trouble. Compared to using soldiers to block water with an earth weir, Luo Qingtong preferred to take precautions, nip all the threats in the bud, not giving the other party the slightest chance to grow. Shwa, following Luo Qingtong's leap, she rushed towards the location marked on the letter. In a simple wooden house 1,000 meters away from the Blackfield's main city, a group of Silver Sword people were looking at Yu Xingqi, who was tied up like a fried dough twist. "Elder, why didn't you just kill her directly?" A Silver Sword disciple said indignantly. Just now, in order to catch Yu Xingqi, they had lost several people. This little slut was really cunning. All kinds of tricks were endless. And that cat by her side was also very cunning. If they didn't have so many people, they really wouldn't be able to catch her. Fortunately, Yu Xingqi was alone outside, otherwise they definitely wouldn't be able to catch her. With such a good opportunity, why didn't the elder directly kill the other party? He even wanted to catch her with great fanfare. Humph! What do you know? The group of Silver Sword people were very embarrassed. That Silver Sword elder also seemed to have suffered heavy injuries. He coughed and scolded that disciple. Yu Huang's strength is very strong. Before, when he had heart disease, we couldn't deal with him. Now that his heart disease has been cured and his strength has increased greatly, he no longer has any worries. How are we going to take revenge? He shouted sternly. If we catch Yu Xingqi in our hands, then you uses at that time. We can take the opportunity. Then we's right we SSSSS, we's SSSS, S, S, SSTs, STeat, teat. As for the woman who helped you see Huang, when she arrives, I will make her wish she was dead. Let her know the consequences of offending the silver sword. The elder with the silver sword said with an extremely cold expression. Yes, the silver sword members hurriedly agreed. At this time, Luo Qingtong had already approached the forest. Looking at the place where the wooden house was, she suddenly raised her eyebrows. Chapter 983. The bloody light in her eyes flashed, and she activated her pupil technique. As Luo Qingtong's gaze swept over, the auras of the people in and around the wooden house were instantly under her control. After Luo Qingtong's strength increased, the power of her pupil technique also became stronger. It wouldn't take long for her to return to the peak state of her previous life. At that time, Luo Qingtong's pair of blood-red eyes were truly unbreakable and invincible. However, that was in the 24th century. Now in this strange world, experts were emerging one after another. Luo Qingtong was looking forward to seeing how far her pupil technique would improve in the future. She liked the feeling of controlling everything in power. Only when a person stood at the peak of a mountain could he be qualified to maneuver unhindered. Luo Qingtong had been reckless all her life. Even though she had transmigrated, she wasn't willing to submit to others. There are quite a lot of people here. Luo Qingtong's gaze swept over the wooden house. When she saw the people hiding in and around it, she raised her eyebrows slightly. A sage realm expert, several martial spirits, martial ancestors, and a group of martial emperors. There were about 100 people. Compared to a sage realm sect, these people were pitifully weak. They should be the surviving members of that sect who had escaped. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly when she sensed their auras. Then, she raised her eyebrows and the corner of her lips curled up devilishly. She instantly bypassed the wooden house and continued to plunge deeper. The Blackfield main city of the Empire of Qin's Holy Dynasty was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. The mountain range behind it rose and fell in an unrestrained manner. It was very majestic and magnificent. The Empire of Qin's Blackfield main city was never short of resources in such a place. Many martial artists and spirit practitioners even came here to hunt and kill demon beasts. Luo Qingtong's figure went deeper into the mountain range. Little Pig was dumbfounded when he saw her raise her hand from time to time and pull out some herbs along the way. She instantly crushed them into liquid and splashed them around. What are you doing? She had almost circled around the mountain range. She had explored more than half of the mountain range at lightning speed. At first, Little Pig thought she was setting a trap. In the end, he didn't stop at all. Just like that, they strolled through a large mountain range. He only stayed in the center of the mountain range for a while. Little Pig's heart was bursting with curiosity. It knew that Luo Qingtong must be preparing to deal with the people from Silver Sword. But it couldn't tell. What should they do? Little Pig felt that ever since he contracted with this woman, his intelligence had always been looked down upon. You'll know when the time comes. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Her lips curled up slightly as she looked around. When she found that it was about time, she rushed towards the wooden house. And at this time, Yu Xingqi already woke up from his coma. She looked at the group of Silver Sword members, blinked innocently and said, I say, you've really caught the wrong person. My brother and I have never gotten along since we were young. Don't you know how happy he was when you captured me? Sigh. She sighed deeply. You don't know this, but the position of the sect master was supposed to be passed to me. But you also know that I'm still young. So my brother took it away from me. You've really made a big mistake by capturing me. If you let me go, I can still compete with my brother for the position of sect master. You've captured me and killed me. Aren't you going against my brother's wishes? Chapter 984. If you want to use me to threaten my brother, then you're wrong. You can see that I don't even have a guard when I'm outside. So you know my position in my brother's heart. You'd better let me go quickly. As Yu Xingqi spoke, he cried pitifully. Humph! Yu Xingqi, you little witch, don't say these things to sway our hearts. Even if Yu Sihuang doesn't care about your life or death. So what? If we kill you, it will be a heavy blow to imperial sex prestige. You just stay here obediently. Wait for us to kill that woman who spoiled our plans. Then we'll bring you to find Yu Sihuang. Look at his ugly face. Ha ha! The elder of the Silver Sword sect laughed loudly. Who is the woman who spoiled your plans? Yu Xingqi blinked her eyes and asked. They couldn't be talking about that evil Dr. Ghost Eye, right? That woman who saved her brother? Just as she was thinking about this, she heard that Silver Sword elder coldly said, Of course it's that woman who saved your brother and caused our Silver Sword's plan to be ruined, exterminating our entire family. Just as his voice fell, they instantly heard a voice coming from outside. Is that so? So I actually did such a big thing. No wonder Yu Sihuang wanted to travel thousands of miles to give me a gift. Following this voice, with a bang, the wooden house's door was kicked open. A figure instantly appeared in front of everyone. Her clothes were red like fire. Her face was like a hibiscus, beautiful enough to topple cities, evil and enchanting. The young girl who appeared in front of them was evil and domineering to the extreme, also enchanting and charming to the extreme. Luo Qingtong. Seeing the figure of the young girl who appeared in front of her, Yu Xingqi's little mouth instantly opened wide. That pair of intelligent eyes also instantly froze for a moment. Oh my god! What did she just hear? Luo Qingtong was evil Dr. Ghost Eye. That beautiful young girl, who saved her brother, and was constantly mentioned by the latter? As Yu Xingqi thought this, that little mouth of his suddenly opened even wider. She completely didn't think in that direction, to the extent that she was somewhat dumbfounded. This result was simply too shocking. Who would have thought that the young lady who had risen from an inferior country was actually the famous evil Dr. Ghost Eye who was sought after by everyone? Oh right. At this time, Yu Xingqi remembered that according to the information he had before, Luo Qingtong came from the eastern border country, and evil Dr. Ghost Eye had risen from the Blackfield city of the eastern border country. But who could link the two of them together? Evil Dr. Ghost Eye became famous in a single day. He was valiant and evil, and incomparably domineering. And Luo Qingtong was only the daughter of a small marquis. Who would have thought that she was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye? Just as Yu Xingqi's small mouth slightly opened, and her almond-shaped eyes widened, on the other side, Silver Sword still didn't know Luo Qingtong's identity. The moment they saw the girl appear, their gazes were fixed on Luo Qingtong's face. That's her. Seeing this very familiar face, the crowd of Silver Sword people immediately cried out. Kill her. That Silver Sword elder flicked his sleeves and said, simply disdaining to make a move. Bang bang bang. As his voice sounded, in an instant, the entire wooden house was filled with an incomparably unrestrained aura from all directions. Chapter 985. Go to hell. A group of people's aura moved like a net, heading towards Luo Qingtong to shroud her. In the sky and on the ground, there is no escape. But that's for other people. In an instant, the bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes shines. In an instant, a bloody light soars from the depths of her eyes. Originally, her clear eyes were filled with red mist, but in an instant, they become bloody and incomparably strange. Luo Qingtong's beautiful face turned demonic in an instant. She was like a demon that bewitched people's hearts. If you want to kill me, then come. Luo Qingtong says, and in an instant her figure moves. The wind and thunder sword in her hand comes out of its sheath. Clang! An extremely accurate sword, passing through a group of people's aura. In an instant, those ropes tied to Yu Xingqi's body are all cut open. Go! After saying that, her voice also quickly rushes out. The girl's steps are like moving clouds and flowing water, naturally graceful to the extreme. It's almost the most perfect posture. Every step is just right, just enough to avoid those auras coming from all directions. In an instant, she rushes out of the door. If you have the ability, then come and chase, Luo Qingtong says, and her figure instantly disappears from everyone's eyes, rushing towards the mountain forest. Chase! The Silver Sword sect elder flew into a rage. When he saw that Yu Xingqi had also disappeared, the veins on his forehead popped out. In any case, they must leave one of them behind today. Since Luo Qingtong let Yu Xingqi go, then she will use herself as compensation. In any case, the other side is also Yu Sihuang's savior. Catching the other side and killing him in front of Yu Sihuang can also achieve their goal. Thinking like this, he suddenly waves his hand, leading a group of Silver Sword people to chase. Swish, swish, swish. Luo Qingtong's speed is extremely fast. Her figure in the dense forest, erratically moving forward, making the group of Silver Sword people behind her unable to catch her track. The members of the Silver Sword sect were so angry that they were stamping with rage. Especially that Silver Sword elder, using the power of the Sage Realm. But he still can't stop Luo Qingtong, making the blue veins on his forehead jump. How could he know that Luo Qingtong was able to easily escape from Yi Qianxian's hands, let alone him? The magical effect of the eye technique, in this mountain forest, is even more displayed to the extreme. Luo Qingtong's every step, every landing, is in Silver Sword people's blind spot, so that they can see her figure, but they can't catch her trace. The group of people moved forward at high speed. Follow this woman, even if we have to waste, we have to kill her. After the elder of the Silver Sword sect unleashed his holy stage power several times in a row to no avail, he gave up completely. He gritted his teeth and shouted. He doesn't believe that Luo Qingtong, a martial emperor, can waste more time than them. Let her run. Let's see how long she can run. When she starts to exhaust her strength, they will take her down. At that time, she will suffer a fate worse than death. That Silver Sword elder's face is cold and stern. Swish, swish, swish. The group of people quickly moved in the mountain range, startling waves of insects and birds. Soon Luo Qingtong's figure stopped. Humph. You can't run anymore, right? That Silver Sword elder's face is ferocious. Chapter 986. Later, I will let you know what it means to wish you were dead. The Silver Sword elder laughed coldly. Everyone will have a share. Let's have a taste of the savior of the king of the southern region. As he spoke, his face was filled with coldness and lust. Don't worry later. I will fulfill all of your wishes. Luo Qingtong crossed her arms in front of her chest and stood where she was, looking calm and relaxed. Her posture was strange. She was standing right in the middle of the group of people. Shameless boasting. You are about to die and you are still talking big. When the Silver Sword elder heard her words, he used his divine consciousness to scan the surroundings to make sure that there was no ambush or killing intent. This woman must be lying to them. Did she think that they would be scared? Is that so? Luo Qingtong looked at them and suddenly smiled evilly. What these people didn't know was that she, Evil Eye, was never one to boast, and she never lied. She was a woman of her words and her actions were resolute. Snap! Luo Qingtong raised her hand and snapped her fingers. Pa! It was as if the entire forest could hear this sound. Little b****, what the hell are you doing? The Silver Sword elder looked serious. He did not know why, but he had a bad feeling that he could not get rid of. This was the heavenly perception of a sage. At their level, their every move was in sync with the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, and they could sense danger. However, the girl in front of him was only a martial emperor. She was all alone. So what if she was powerful? Could she be so powerful that she could defeat and kill all of them? The Silver Sword elder did not believe it. That was simply impossible. Someone who could do such a thing must not be human. However, he soon realized what Luo Qingtong had done. Snap, snap, snap. As the young girl snapped her fingers, they heard the sound. It was as if something was pulling them. Pa pa pa. Around the entire mountain range, in the places where Luo Qingtong had wandered before, in the woods and under the grass, there seemed to be a domino effect. From the place where Luo Qingtong stood, there seemed to be a continuous line that spread outwards. Pa pa pa. A series of explosions rang out. The places where Luo Qingtong had splashed something with a wave of her hand were now filled with mist. In an instant, the entire mountain range seemed to be shrouded in a faint layer of mist. Roar! Roar! As the smoke rose, the eyes of all the demonic beasts in the entire mountain range that smelled the smoke instantly turned red. The aura of the smoke stimulated them, causing them to lose their minds and fall into a state of madness. Beast-attracting powder. The things that Luo Qingtong had splashed along the road were shockingly beast-attracting powder aimed at various demon beasts, which could stimulate them to go crazy. Boom, boom, boom. All the demon beasts that had smelled the smoke instantly ran madly towards the place where the smoke was spreading. And the destination of the smoke was the place where Luo Qingtong and the others were standing. At the same time, buzz. Chapter 987. An array. Seeing these bright silver lights, the Silver Sword Sect elder's expression suddenly froze. Then, he raised his voice and sneered. Do you think you can stop us with just this formation? Ridiculous. There were so many of them here. He didn't believe that Luo Qingtong could set up an advanced array. So what if she set up a sage array? In the face of absolute power, all her struggles were futile. The elder of the Silver Sword Sect sneered. That's right. Luo Qingtong's smile was faint and wanton. In the face of absolute power, all your struggles are futile. So don't even think about struggling. Just enjoy it. When her voice rang out, the people of the Silver Sword Sect immediately felt that something was wrong. They suddenly realized that the array formation that had lit up around them was actually an entrapment-type defensive array formation. This array enveloped them in Luo Qingtong, making it impossible for them to escape. What was going on? What the hell was this woman doing? The people from the Silver Sword Sect originally thought that Luo Qingtong's array formation was an offensive one, and its purpose was to deal with them. But now, this array's function was to trap them here. Luo Qingtong was also in the array. What was she trying to do? Just when the Silver Sword elders were feeling uneasy. Rumble. Suddenly, the sound of fierce galloping rang out around them. The sound of 4 hooves and feet stomping on the ground was so intense. At the same time, howls rang out one after another. The whole mountain forest seemed to shake in an instant. The earth shook, and the trees trembled. Hearing these sounds, the Silver Sword elder's expression changed greatly. A beast tide. It was a beast tide. The members of the Silver Sword Sect were completely flustered. They never thought that a beast tide would break out here. Where was this place? The main city of the Black Field of the Empire of Qin. The surrounding mountains were all cleared by the powerhouses of the Black Field. With the powerhouses of the Black Field in the main city of the Empire of Qin, the demon beasts in the nearby mountains were all well-behaved and could hunt the powerhouses who entered the mountains. But they couldn't assemble into an army. Otherwise, they would be killed by the powerhouses of the Black Field. How could there be a beast tide here? Furthermore, from the sounds, it seemed like the beast tide was coming for them. You actually triggered a beast tide. The Silver Sword Elder finally understood what Luo Qingtong's words meant. This woman had actually attracted the beast tide, and even trapped them here. Was she crazy? She was also here. Was she prepared to perish together with them? That Silver Sword Sect Elder looked at Luo Qingtong, like he was looking at a lunatic. Quickly stop the beast tide. Otherwise, you will die too. His expression was ugly. He had to admit that Luo Qingtong's move of fighting back from the brink of death was a real threat to him. The strength of their group was simply not enough in front of this beast tide that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. No matter how powerful he was as a powerhouse of the Sage Realm, it would be difficult for him to escape once he was surrounded by the beast tide. Moreover, there might be sacred beasts in this mountain range. Chapter 988. If you release this restriction and remove the beast tide, I can swear to the heavens that we Silver Sword will never attack you again. Silver Sword will no longer attack her. But Silver Sword already exists in name only. As long as they get rid of this name, they can still attack Luo Qingtong. At that time, they will make her more miserable than now. That Silver Sword Elder's eyes are hiding ruthlessness and insidiousness. He thought that Luo Qingtong did this just to force them to compromise. Wait until they get through this crisis. He will make the other side miserable. However, just as he was thinking this, He heard Luo Qingtong's indifferent expression. Is it? Unfortunately, the girl's smile is beautiful and enchanting, evil and charming. You are willing to let me go, but I am not willing to let you go. Cut the grass without removing the roots. It will grow again when the spring breeze blows. These people have seen her true face. They know that she is the one who saved Yu Huang. Sooner or later, they will know her identity as evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Luo Qingtong never likes to leave future troubles. Since the other side provoked her, she will use this as an opportunity to completely eradicate them. Anyone who threatens her, Luo Qingtong will not allow them to have any chance to live. These people must die. Rumble. The sound of those beasts galloping is even more intense. All around, demon beasts have appeared with ferocious faces and huge bodies. Their mouths are dripping with saliva. Their mouths are wide open. Their eyes are crazy, looking at the silver sword people in the middle of the open space, as if they are looking at delicious food and the target of hatred. Luo Qingtong arranged the beast powder in the mountains. After the explosion, the smell is enough to make all the demon beasts in the mountains go crazy. She set up such a trap here, in order to make the silver sword people invite you into the trap. Rumble. As the smell of the beast powder spread, a large number of demon beasts came. Those demon beasts that arrived first have already launched an attack on the silver sword people. In their eyes, these people in front of them are all enemies and food. Break out! Let's break out of here! The silver sword people shouted loudly, and attacked the array in front of them with all their might. However, what shocked them was that no matter how they attacked, the array in front of them didn't budge at all. Saint Realm Array. The silver sword elder's expression finally turned into one of horror. He originally thought that Luo Qingtong had just casually arranged an array formation to trap them. What he was truly fearful of was the beast tide. Who would have thought that the other party had set up a saint stage array? How was this possible? The other party was only a martial royal at such a young age. How could he have set up a saint state formation? This was something that could only be set up by a saint-level spiritual array master. It could only be activated with the aura of a saint realm expert. What he didn't know was that with Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she could activate the saint realm formation in a short period of time with a relatively low strength. Although this array formation could only last for a limited time, it was enough to trap them in the beast tide and make them unable to extricate themselves. Luo Qingtong's purpose was not to trap them in this array formation, but to make it impossible for them to escape from this beast tide. Rumble. While the people of the Silver Sword sect were frantically attacking the formation, the demonic beasts that were rushing over from all directions also arrived. Bang bang bang. Chapter 989. Attacks flashed one after another in the sky above the open space. The auras pierced through the sky. The howls of the ferocious beasts and the screams of the Silver Sword people were endless. Looking at the people of the Silver Sword people he brought here, under the siege of the demon beasts, the Silver Sword elder's body emitted a burst of coldness. He looked at the center of the open space, at the girl with a happy and calm face, and asked with difficulty, "Who are you?" A girl who can attract so many demon beasts with beast-attracting powder. A girl who can casually set up a sage realm array in this open space. That Silver Sword elder was very sure. He had never heard of such a girl's reputation. If the other party was so powerful, it was absolutely impossible for him not to have heard of it. The other party, who is she? I thought you should have already guessed it. It seems that my previous disguise was too good, Luo Qingtong said, and raised her hand to cover her face with the Rakshasa ghost mask. The girl's temperament changed in an instant. It became androgynous, strong and evil. Before, Luo Qingtong's temperament was enchanting and charming, domineering and evil. But now, her temperament was a bit more androgynous, making her look a lot colder and more domineering. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye? Looking at the Rakshasa ghost mask that appeared in front of him, that Silver Sword elder's complexion became completely pale. He guessed the identity of countless girls, including that place. But he didn't expect that Luo Qingtong's identity turned out to be that popular youth in the Black Field. And even in the entire Eastern Domain. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. How could it be her? Evil Dr. Ghost, I was actually a girl. That Silver Sword Elder's complexion turned ashen. He finally remembered the news that he and the others had inquired about before. Yu Si Huang brought gifts to visit the Black Field, but was driven out by the Black Field's Ming Zun. They thought that Yu Si Huang was going to visit the Black Field's Ming Zun, but he ended up offending the other party and was kicked out. Now it seemed that he wasn't going to visit Ming Zun in the Black Field. Obviously, he went to thank Luo Qingtong for saving his life, but he was kicked out by the jealous Ming Zun of the Black Field. It was said that the Black Field's Ming Zun had fallen in love with the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. He didn't even care that the other party was a man, and spoiled him wholeheartedly. Now it seemed that these words were not false. In fact, it was even worse. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye was actually a woman. No wonder the Black Field Underworld Venerable fell in love with her. The Silver Sword Elder couldn't help but shudder when he thought that the target of their revenge was actually the evil Dr. Guitong. The Black Field's Underworld Venerables had terrifying means, and their strength was sky-high. They actually dared to attack evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Even if they weren't trapped here today, Ming Zun would definitely not let them off. Hateful that they didn't know anything. Otherwise, no matter how much hatred he had, he could only swallow it down. How could he possibly make a move against Luo Qingtong? However, it was too late to say anything now. That Silver Sword Elder's heart was filled with fear and regret. In the end, it all turned into a desperate madness. No matter what, they had already offended this person, so they definitely couldn't let her leave here. First, they had to capture the other party. Then after they escaped from the Beast Tide, they would kill her. Luo Qingtong definitely had a way to leave the Beast Tide. Chapter 990. In an instant, the power of the Saint Realm burst out and rushed toward Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Qingtong's figure had already rushed up when his expression changed. The girl's figure was as light as a butterfly, her robe fluttering like wings. Her figure rushed out in an instant and wandered among the crowd of demonic beasts. Rumble, countless demonic beasts came one after another, their roars like thunder, roaring and raging. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. Her figure was like moving clouds and flowing water among the crowd of demonic beasts. That was the peak of the perfect body movement. Luo Qingtong's figure wandered among the demonic beasts. With the help of the crowd of demonic beasts, she avoided the attacks of the Silver Sword Elder. The wind and thunder sword in her hand blasted out one sword light after another. Luo Qingtong's eyes reflected the circulation of the aura of the Silver Sword Elder. Boom boom boom. The sleeves of the Silver Sword Elder's robe fluttered. His whole body was shrouded in a layer of valiant aura. The power of heaven and earth around him moved in response, forming a complete vacuum around him. All the attacks of Luo Qingtong and the demonic beasts were blocked. Humph! His face was ferocious. Evil Dr. Guitong, don't struggle anymore. Those below the Saint Realm are all ants. I don't know how you killed my elder, but you must have borrowed the power of Yu Si Huang. Today, I'll let you know what the real power of the Saint Realm is. The Silver Sword Elder said. With a boom, the power of heaven and earth around him surged out. In an instant, the demonic beasts within dozens of meters of Luo Qingtong all screamed miserably and were torn to pieces by the violent power of heaven and earth. In an instant, Luo Qingtong's surroundings became a vacuum. The girl's figure was exposed from the crowd of demonic beasts. Seeing this, the elder of the Silver Sword sect laughed complacently. Evil Dr. Guitong, come over here. As he spoke, he raised his hand to grab Luo Qingtong. However, just as his spirit energy palm was about to grab Luo Qingtong's body trembled. The young girl's lowered head slowly lifted up. I see it. In the hideous ghost face, Luo Qingtong's smile was faint and evil. The blood-red light in her eyes surged violently. The surging aura of the Silver Sword sect's elder was reflected in it. There was a place where the aura was much weaker than the other places. Moreover, at this moment, after the other party had used his saint stage power to kill those demonic beasts, it was obvious that he had exposed his true strength. This place was naturally invisible to the eyes of others. After all, how powerful was a Saint Realm expert? Even if the strength of this silver sword expert was slightly weaker, those who were not at the same level as him would not be able to tell. But Luo Qingtong was different. Her eye technique had completely identified all the weaknesses that the other party had revealed at this moment. Swoosh! The corners of the young girl's lips curled up wickedly. In the next second, the life and death sword appeared in Luo Qingtong's hands. Then, with the heart of the thousand-year soul guiding tree in her hand, countless Yin soul power was absorbed and transformed into Luo Qingtong's body. Heaven-conquering art. Luo Qingtong's sword slashed forward fiercely. In an instant the attack was earth-shattering. It cut through the sky and split the firmament. With a domineering determination, it charged forward violently with an indomitable momentum. Rumble! You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity, through donations, truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.